They divorced in 1996, yet almost 30 years have passed and Sarah Ferguson still waits for him every morning, brewing Earl Grey in the same blue and white bone china cups they chose together, cups that have remained untouched by protocol and unchanged by scandal, cups that sit on a saucer beside a folded newspaper in the same spot they always occupied on the Royal Lodge breakfast table, where the sunlight filters through the leaded glass in golden slats across worn oak floorboards and illuminates dust motes dancing like reluctant ghosts of better days. In that sprawling Georgian house nestled on the edge of Windsor Great Park, the world beyond the wrought iron gates has altered irrevocably, monarchies slimmed, reputations shredded, titles stripped by decree, friendship circles redrawn against hushed corridors and cold corridors of Buckingham Palace, but inside those ivy-clad walls a singular bond prevails, unspoken yet undeniable, as resistant to time as the ancient stones that line the estate's perimeter. He is Andrew, Duke of York, once a naval officer celebrated for his valor who transformed into a royal outcast overnight when a reckless interview and a flood of accusations engulfed him in international disgrace, obliterating the carefully choreographed life the firm had scripted for him, reducing him to the footnotes of history he never intended to claim. She is Sarah, once the vivacious outsider who sparked whispers and headlines from Sky News studios to tabloid front pages, a Duchess-branded disaster, 4 missteps from toe-sucking gaffes to financial misadventures, a woman whose laughter once rang too loudly for royal tastes, yet who in the depths of public humiliation found an unexpected purpose: to remain. While courtiers shuffled offices, downsized staffs, and repainted their allegiances, she refused to leave the man she had married and divorced and remarried in memory every day. They share a house, not as friends, not as roommates, but as 2 pillars holding up the fragile sanctuary no palace decree can dismantle. The world sees only the headlines: Andrew's patronages revoked, his military uniforms mothballed, his public duties suspended, the Queen forced to make a painful choice between affection for her son and the Crown's stability, but inside Royal Lodge, they carry on with haunting normalcy. They rise at dawn to greet the garden's mist, Andrew in his slippers, hair still silver against the velvet of his jacket, Sarah in a robe embroidered with roses, each finding solace in the simple act of companionship. They share breakfast she prepares: soft-boiled eggs, buttered toast, tea steeped precisely 3 minutes, no more, no less. No royal announcement, no ceremonial procession, just 2 people bound by a devotion that outlasts decorum. In the library, she writes her memoirs, stringing sentences like lifelines, recollecting the day she first met him on a London street decades ago, his easy smile and the promise he whispered beneath autumn leaves. He reads beside her, a dog-eared copy of Montaigne's essays marking his place. Occasionally they speak, but only in whispers, as if aware that walls have ears and loyalty can be mistaken for conspiracy. They laugh at jokes no outsider would catch, recalling the time she ducked the future Charles in the pool and left a fake turd on his lawn, pranks she once claimed were mischief, but which in retrospect seem prophecy, foreshadowing a royal life written not on parchment but on the fragile pages of shared experience. In the afternoon, they walk the corgis down gravel paths where the Queen Mother once strolled, their steps echoing against tall oaks bearing silent witness to a bond that defies every script the monarchy ever penned. Passers-by might glimpse them only as a gentleman and lady who have outlived their youth, but inside that gesture is the story of 2 survivors who refused to let the world define their end. When the evening falls, Sarah lights a single candle in the chapel that sits behind the main hall, no other lights, no audience, marking the anniversary of their wedding with quiet ritual, as if the vows were never pronouncements but sacred oaths between souls. Andrew attends in a worn tuxedo, the same one he wore on that July day in 1986, its lapels now frayed, its lining faded, yet still serviceable for moments that matter. They stand before the altar on bare stone, he tracing the outline of her face with a thumb as if memorizing every contour, she resting a hand on his sleeve to steady both their hearts. No clergyman reads their future, no choir lends a hymn, but in that hush they hear only each other's breath, a symphony that the palace cannot censor. Back in the drawing room, they dine by candlelight, roast lamb, minted peas, a glass of Chateau d'Yquem she brought home from a trip to France before headlines darkened their world. They speak of family, of Beatrice's engagement ring, of Eugenie's art exhibition, of grandchildren yet to come, and occasionally they speak of nothing, just let the conversation drift on the hush of a piano sonata faintly playing on an old gramophone in the corner. They do not pretend to be royalty, they have outgrown the necessity. They are beyond acclaim and beyond condemnation. Their love is not a narrative the monarchy writes, it is the one story the monarchy never managed to end. In the silent dark, they retreat to separate chambers, she falling asleep to the whisper of his name, he tracing her silhouette on the ceiling as if it were the map of his survival. The next morning he will bring her newspaper wrapped in her initials, she will pour him tea just the way he likes, and the kingdom will go on without them, unaware that the purest act of rebellion is fidelity in the face of every decree to abandon. They divorced in 1996. And yet, here they are, two souls entwined beyond titles, beyond scandal, beyond reason, a living testament that love, once kindled, refuses to be extinguished, even by the fiercest gales the world can muster. And still, in the quiet spaces between those routines, new layers of their bond reveal themselves. In the solstice twilight, when Windsor's ancient oaks cast skeletal shadows across the lawn, they step outside in matching cashmere coats, their breath visible in the chill air. There, beneath the silent sky, Sarah recounts to Andrew the particulars of a letter he never received, a note from a childhood friend visiting from Scotland, describing the misty loch and the scent of heather carried on autumn winds. He listens not as a distant observer but as a man who treasures each word she speaks, his gaze steady and focused. In those moments, the world's judgment falls away entirely. There are no headlines, no palace intrigues, just two people who have learned how to listen to each other's silences. And when the candle in the gazebo flickers low, Andrew steps forward, drawing her into an embrace that feels less like comfort and more like homecoming after a lifelong journey. She closes her eyes, her head resting against his chest, hands pressed into the rough wool of his coat, imprinting memory onto fabric as if to say she will never let go again. By dawn, they return indoors, where Sarah sits at her writing desk, drafting a heartfelt tribute to a beloved aunt whose funeral they attended together in near anonymity, no televised coverage, no royal car procession, just a small gathering of family and close friends. Andrew stands behind her, his hand gently brushing her shoulder, offering silent support as she chooses words that capture grief's fragile balance between sorrow and celebration of life. Later, they share tea once more in the morning room, but today the conversation turns to practicalities. Who will oversee the garden restoration next spring, how they might volunteer at the local children's hospice together, which rooms at Royal Lodge could be refurbished for visiting grandchildren. Plans that look forward, unburdened by scandal's weight, hint at a future they never believed possible. Even as Buckingham Palace's corridors remain hushed with speculation, rumors of firmer lines and stricter decorum, these two exiles stand firm in their shared purpose, to cultivate a private legacy of compassion and resilience. Because in every whispered promise held in candlelight, in every unspoken vow sealed over cups of tea, they have rewritten the rules of royal devotion. 29 years after the divorce decree, the strongest statement they have ever made remains this: they chose each other again, and again, and again, and that choice endures, unchallenged by time, unshaken by fate.